when you called me for a morning coffee. Did you mean to waste all of my time and money? Well, if not, I'm sorry for my selfish worry, but I think about you all the time. I'm sorry if I sound too lonesome. I'm just kind of slow. Sometimes I'm waiting for time to pass me by. Broken hearts and empty chair, and I'm sorry, but I need some room to walk now, babe. Talk again, and will you still write about me on the back of receipts? And did you hear me when I said I'm sorry? I'm just waiting for time to pass me by.
Hi friends, Caroline here. I hope you can hear me over the wind and neighbors' lawnmowers. I'm at my mama's new house right now, which is very exciting, and after this I'm probably going to grab up some strawberries. She's inside painting, and it's a lovely Sunday in Maryland, so I thought I'd ramble outside for just a little while, not keep you here too long after my initial video of some sweet foraging footage. With that being said, if you haven't already looked in the description box, I'll give you a content warning. I included some words and mainly resources for recent happenings in society with George Floyd and the riots, so they're more so rebellions. And I say that in solidarity and support. So content warning there. If you don't want to engage with that, you can scroll below it, or just not click to expand at all. But yeah, I wanted to include that with this video, just because while this can be a nice escape, escapism is a privilege. So yeah, just my disclaimer, I guess, a very important disclaimer. Anywho, what I'm speaking to now is less so about the foraging video, though it has come about thanks to my connecting more steadily and intimately with the earth and her creatures and her plants and their spirits, and that is this sort of rebrand, which always feels kind of weird for me, like the idea that I'm a brand, you're a brand, like with social media, that always feels kind of icky to me, just so ego-filled, but necessary in building a sustainable business and one that is ethical. But I think being transparent through rebrandings, and as I alchemize my offerings and transfigure them and transcend past confines and boundaries and stories I told myself about my business and my yoga asana teachings, especially. Being fully transparent and verbally expressing that to anyone who's engaging with my content and my online offerings feels just like a balancing act for me. So if you haven't seen, I've sort of returned to my childhood name, Khaki. My friend Lexi asked me how to pronounce it, and it's khaki, like khaki pants, like that color green. It's usually a green. Khaki, but it's spelled K-A-K-I, and that's my childhood name, really. If you knew me back in middle school, elementary school, some people in high school called me Khaki, then you might know me more as Khaki than Caroline, and if you're a family member, you definitely know me as Khaki. And so I've been calling my yoga asana offerings Caroline and Yoga, and that just felt easy for me. It was what a lot of other teachers and community leaders were doing, just branding with their name. And for a while, the first year of my business, going out on my own, teaching and just offering my own online content beyond studios and having, bosses, so to say, or supervisors, just using my name, my legal name, made a lot of sense. And it'll still be like my trade name, I guess. I don't know if I'll change my actual LLC name, just because that's kind of a pain, but maybe down the road. But basically, because my movement practice personally and in what I'm teaching and offering in a studio space or a shala space is less about me and more about you as the individual engaging in my philosophy system, I guess, like my own, which feels kind of daunting to say, but sort of as I go out on my own and expand and transcend my teachings that I once followed and the sequencing I once followed, and yeah, just stories I told myself about how I had to teach yoga asana. The name Caroline and Yoga just didn't really fit, and so I switched it over sort of slowly, just in recent weeks, to Khaki Movement, because what I am practicing personally and then offering in videos to come and in real life gatherings as those come back into being is so much more than just traditional yoga asana, so much more than that sort of patriarchy that exists over yoga. It's very much built for, well, certain systems are built in a very rigid and masculine way, like Ashtanga. I practiced Ashtanga for about a year, and my body just did not dig it, and it wasn't letting me grow creatively in the way I wanted it to. And so I switched to a more feminine practice, back to a more feminine practice in vinyasa, and woven some elements of yin for sure. And with that, my movement practice has really transformed. So it's far less cut and dry, and like, you used to, I think, really be able to tell the formula for my asana classes, and now I try to make them still a safe space where people can, know what to expect and trust their bodies and trust me to guide them. But I realized I wanted my asana offerings to exist beyond those traditions that fall under patriarchy, fall under more masculine rigidity, and embrace more of that yin femininity. And with that, there was a youthfulness that came back into my teachings, a youthfulness that I sort of returned to in recent months after going to Ireland and reconnecting with my ancestry there in a very ethereal manner, and then spending time in Hawaii with a little one who really reminded me of my youth here and now, and how despite being an adult and building business and figuring out my own taxes, I'm still nurturing my inner child very much. And that sort of brought me back to Khaki after having sort of strayed from that name, that label wearing in college, especially because I went out of state for school, and so everyone back in Maryland who called me Khaki was no longer with me in Colorado. And so as I went out on my own for the first time fully, I was really just Caroline. Like, that was adult Caroline. And through college, I was really in an ego space. I was sort of in and out of my spiritual practice, but it wasn't as pure as the one that I knew. I use pure loosely, as the one I knew back in Maryland growing up, when I first dipped my toes into yoga and Eastern philosophy before I even got into like the 8 limbs or asana. And so it wasn't until recent months that I really got back to the roots of why I practice yoga, why I study philosophy systems from the East, and all that good stuff. And I guess I should explain how I got the name Khaki, because that's the root of all of this. I was 4.5, I checked with my mom, 4.5-ish, when my little brother, he called me Khaki while trying to say Caroline, and he was, I guess, 2.5, if that. Could have even been 1.5, but probably more like 2. And he called me Khaki, and like I remember it happening. I'm pretty sure we were in the basement of my childhood home, and it just stuck, and so that just stayed with me through childhood. I was Khaki, and like a lot of my early social media usernames were Khaki. I probably had an email. If I was on like Neopets, I was Khaki. Like it was my youth. And looking back, I realized how beautiful it was that I got a name that now has returned to me, like as a 23-year-old young maiden woman. It was given to me by a younger sibling who was even closer to source, to that sort of spirit realm where we all start and go back to eventually in my belief system. The fact that he, this little one, called me Khaki, and like that was my name. Like he basically renamed me and gave me a nickname that stuck and now has returned, sort of never fully went away. When I would come home from Colorado or recent travels, my parents call me Khaki, cousins call me Khaki. It's an easy name to say. So yeah, it hasn't fully gone away, but now I'm sharing it more widely with you all and with allowing it to adorn my business and those offerings as well. It's very much feels ancestral, and yeah, like it was given to me in a different way than the way my parents gave me my name. I still so much cherish my name, Caroline, and my full name. I think it's beautiful. Caroline itself means like womanly, and I really relate to that as a young woman in a more spiritual way than I did when I was younger, and I read that and was like, okay, cool. But now, yeah, both names mean a lot to me. That's what I mean to say. You can call me by either also, if I know you in real life, or if you ever take a class with me, you can call me whatever you want. But Khaki sort of feels like it's something beyond my ego, especially. My ego feels very much attached to Caroline, if that makes sense. Because Caroline was the one who went through all the conditioning and all of the experiences, I think, that sort of led to me feeling very much like I was in a trauma state and living from ego more so than spirit through college. And so yeah, I love both names. I'm not like attached to either in any like specific way, but Khaki I feel comfortable putting on a business and knowing that it's beyond me, because these movement practices, the somatic activation that I've sort of been cultivating in recent months and finally feel compelled to share. There was a time where I didn't want to teach. It was, what I was creating was so near and dear to me, I didn't want to teach it yet. But now that it feels like it's been reborn, these offerings that I can share and guide you all through, needed a new name, and it's my name, the name that my little brother gave me when we were both wee ones. And that's basically it. I just want to be fully transparent, because rebranding, I feel like, feels so businessy, but it's a deeply spiritual, feminine experience for me, and it was like a rebirth for myself as a human, wearing a name and an ego as loosely as I can on any given day, and for myself as a teacher, and for the business being something outside of myself, not something for me, not something I'm creating with money in mind, not something you know, I hope to gain anything from. I want to share with you what I've learned from being in a body, being in this body, and moving in a way that's unique to me. That's what it feels like when I hone in on like khaki movement. It's movement that is trauma safe, informed, that is sort of this melting pot of my favorite aspects of asana and my favorite aspects of other movement practices like ecstatic dance, the Ito Portal methods, yin, and everything you can imagine. Running, biking, everything is sort of, it's just this giant melting pot. However you want to move in a space where I'm teaching, you can move. There will be guidance, but what I've come to realize in recent weeks, months especially, is that I cannot teach you how to move. I cannot tell you how to move, but I can be there with you and hold space for you as we remember together how to express and learn and release from these bodies, how through movement and stillness and a combination of the two, still one moment, moving the next, we can go so beyond ourselves and so deep within ourselves. Like the body is full of portals. It's a portal itself. No matter your reproductive organs, it's a portal, and khaki movement is about activating that, aligning it, and then allowing for your vessel to express and channel however you'd like. So those are my rambles, and thank you for listening if you're in this deep. I appreciate you, and I hope to guide you someday soon. I will probably, hopefully, be doing a weekly somatic activation video come July, and they're all kind of gonna like build on each other, so that'll be really my first introduction for you all to these new offerings and new teaching style for me. So look for that, and I'll have some somatic activation classes too in the summer solstice portal that I'm filming shortly, and that goes live on June 16th, and then there'll be some live offerings on the 20th, the actual solstice too, but that is that.